Stephen Willis. I've heard former Sea Org members say that getting funding approved for even something as small as a box of new pens can be quite an ordeal. When David Miscavige wants to, however, he can openly splash huge amounts of cash on one of his projects. Does struggling, and struggling only to see DM's people come in and spend millions with a nod of a head, cause cognitive dissonance in staff and Sea Org workers? Did you ever see anything which apparently had an unlimited budget like that? As a Sea Org member, if you want to request money for something, then you have to wait until Thursday at the end of the week, and then you submit what's called a purchase order, and that has to have a completed staff work or a CSW attached to it that lays out what the problem is, what the information is regarding that problem, and why this is that you need this money for the solution to that problem. And this was always a constant battle. If you wanted new shoes, or if uniform parts, which was a constant struggle, you were very fortunate to get uniform parts ever approved. It would be months, even years between getting those kinds of things. Basic admin supplies and stuff you could kind of just go pick up at Treasury. That wasn't really that big of a deal. It wasn't a hard time to find a pen. But if you needed a new desk, or you needed, like a computer, or a computer system, when we set that whole thing, that was a huge expenditure. It was like $10,000–$12,000 or something, and that was a big deal. That was that we had to fight to get that through the financial planning, because the financial planning that happens each week for each Scientology organization, it's not for Scientology as a whole. Every single organization has their own weekly FP. And the FP looks at the allocation for the week based on how much income they produced and how much the percentage of that income they can spend on such things as internal requests for stuff. And if you didn't make enough income to have any percentage for that, then there was simply no money. And of course, those percentages of the allocations always happened after a certain percentage came off the top to go up to management for, payments to flag, it was called, or film lease payments, or various required percentages of income that had to go up the line. The only time those percentages weren't taken off the top and paid is if all of the money was needed in order to, say, pay the rent, or a mortgage payment, or a property tax payment, which happened from time to time. That sort of balloon payment, I think maybe I should say. That kind of thing happened from time to time at organizations. So it was always a roll of the dice as to whether there was going to be any money there for you, and then whether your particular purchase order was going to get approved, because there'd be a whole pile of purchase orders submitted by everybody and then when the Sea Org, this included uniform parts, or office equipment, or payments for various things, or sometimes you'd want to set aside money for things. You'd want a certain cut of the money to be just pushed over here because you were, building up for a computer system. So it was constantly a struggle because there was never enough money. The system is built so that a lot of the money goes up the line, and then you have not a lot of money being made by most of these organizations, which is odd but true. The organizations aren't necessarily making all the money. There are IAS, International Association of Scientologists, salespeople, regs, who are running around individually getting people to do straight donations for things. And some of those donations get big money. That money comes in, but it goes straight to the IAS. We never saw any of that money, ever, not any little part of it. So, and IAS donations have been the major thing being asked for in Scientology for years. Same with building fundraising. We never saw any of that money. It didn't go into the percentages. It didn't go into the weekly allocation stack, so to speak. Okay. So now your question about, I just wanted to explain all that to make it clear what the environment was like and what it was like just in a regular week to try to get money for things. It was very, very frustrating. So then when you see David Miscavige have all the finer things of life, or you hear about this, or you see these projects, there wasn't really a lot of cognitive dissonance going on for me personally. Maybe for other people there was, but I never heard about it. It was certainly nothing that anybody would ever be complaining about. we knew that there was money around. I mean, we knew that big money was going to the IAS. We were the ones making it, or we were watching it be made. We knew that there was money going, of course, into the building fundraising, and that, of course, was always for the buildings. So when Miscavige had nice things, we figured that, well, he was getting birthday presents and Christmas presents from us, because we were always giving, little bits, $10 or whatever, come Christmas time or come birthday time. And that adds up. I mean, you get, like when I worked at the management organization, that was a group of, almost 200, maybe over 200 people. They're all giving, $10. That's $2,000. So, you know that he's going to, $2,000 gets a very nice pair of shoes, or gets him, this or that or the other thing. And we'd always get little thank you notes sent back down from RTC over those kind of things. So we kind of figured that, some of it came from that, or we just thought, well, he deserves whatever he's getting because he's the hardest working Sea Org member in all of Scientology, and he is so dedicated and so hardcore, and plus, of course, he's at the top. He should look good. He should be a, shining, stellar reflection of all that is good and wonderful in Scientology. So it was that kind of thinking more that I ran into. As far as the projects go, like building projects or building the Bridge Publications warehouse with the printing facility and all the money for that, or whatever other special projects were being funded, the superpower building and stuff. I don't know, we just figured the money came from somewhere. It came from the IAS, or it came from the years of the church building up reserves. And I knew when I was in Scientology that the church invested some of its money and got returns on those investments. So I didn't really think about it too much. And the truth of that is that I didn't really have a lot of time to think about it either. I mean, let's not forget that I was in an environment that wasn't 9 to 5. It was 8 to midnight, and this was an environment that didn't give you a lot of time to sit and think and contemplate about things like that, or be, sort of wondering what was really going on. I mean, I didn't give it a lot of thought. I was so busy all the time and so freaked out most of the time about my own personal survival and about, my own well-being, that I didn't give a whole lot of thought to David Miscavige, except when I saw him speaking at events, or if he was on base. And of course, if he was on base, it was all hands on deck, everybody, and make sure everything's clean and your desk is in order and you don't have a bunch of, backlogged, stale dated communications and stuff like that. So that was kind of, where my mind would go whenever it came to David Miscavige. So I hope that answers the question. I gave a lot of data there because I wanted to kind of give the bigger picture of that. But that's, anyway, let me know if you have anything else on that, Steve.